As Americans focus their attention on thousands of illegal immigrants living under a bridge on the southern border, the Biden administration tries to justify amnesty for 8 million illegal immigrants living across our nation. Good evening, I'm Leland Vittert. Welcome to the program. In Washington, they call it taking out the trash, slang for dumping unpopular, controversial, or embarrassing news on a Friday afternoon when the media is distracted with something else. Right now, the media is distracted with tens of thousands of illegal immigrants living under a bridge in Texas. They're crossing the Rio Grande and then camping out. We're going to cover that side of the story, the immigration crisis, in just a minute. But first, taking out the trash is exactly what happened today, as the White House snuck in their justification of a monster change to immigration policy in their proposed $3.5 trillion spending bill. In a blog post, the White House now is making the economic case to give green cards to 8 million living in the United States illegally, including so-called dreamers, essential workers, and those with temporary protected status. Green cards would allow them to live here legally, permanently, and potentially give them access to federal benefits. Politico writes Democrats' best and likely last chance this Congress to deliver immigration reform now rests on an arcane argument that giving undocumented immigrants legal residency would affect the federal budget. That's because things ruled to affect the federal budget can effectively be passed by a simple majority in the Senate rather than the traditional 60 votes needed for major legislation. Axios' AM newsletter lays out the White House's case, saying the green card change would boost GDP by $1.5 trillion, create 400,000 jobs, and increase the federal budget deficit by $139 billion over a 10-year period. Niall Stanage covers the White House for our friends at The Hill and is the Washington scribe, a rare Washington scribe, as a matter of fact, who works on a Friday night and thus gets the juiciest scoops from the news dumps. Niall, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Leland.
Try to be fair and accurate during these opens, during the whole show, as a matter of fact. Did I get anything wrong in that thought?
Not as far as I'm aware. I think it is a very arcane procedure, this thing called reconciliation, which is why there are these economic arguments being made that this immigration move will affect the federal budget, as you said.
I guess the question would be, how much of this is by political necessity for the White House because they don't have 60 votes in the Senate, and how much of it's political expediency because they can have everybody arguing over $3.5 trillion and make a change to the immigration laws of America that we haven't seen since Ronald Reagan?
Well, I mean, I think that last point is a great point. I think there have been various attempts, as you're well aware, Leland, to change the immigration system, and they have almost all foundered. I mean, George W. Bush, when he was president, tried to reform the immigration system. The problem is it is a very politically difficult thing to do. The Democratic Party has for a long time promised a kind of liberalizing reform. It didn't get that done on a wide scale under President Obama, so now they're trying this maneuver to do it this time around.
It comes as we see the video that we're watching right now, which is this massive group of Haitian refugees, we understand, that are under a bridge now waiting for processing in Texas. This is how Ted Cruz describes that situation. Take a listen.
This is a disaster, and it is a man-made disaster. It is the result of political decisions, and Joe Biden could end this tomorrow by simply following the law.
We're going to get to the bridge issue in a minute, but nothing happens in a vacuum. Is it easier or harder to push through these 8 million green cards with the bridge situation and the pictures from the southern border that we're seeing?
Oh, I think there's no question that it's harder. I think any time when Americans feel that their border is not under control, immigration reform is more difficult. Liberalizing immigration is more difficult. I think for the majority of voters, yes, there has been a shift over time toward a more overall liberal position in immigration, but that doesn't mean that people are amenable to this kind of change when they're looking at the scenes of chaos that you just showed, or when they're seeing overall illegal border crossings at about a 20-year high.
Yeah, we should state that this $3.5 trillion bill is really on life support. We've reported on that all week. How much does the White House, Democrats on Capitol Hill, Republicans on Capitol Hill, view this immigration change, these 8 million green cards, as a bargaining chip versus a must-have?
You know, I think that the White House would like to get this done somehow, but would they let, the whole 3.5 trillion fall apart over this? I think no chance. What the Biden administration is focused on above all is the smaller infrastructure bill and this larger package. They know they are going to have to give up some bargaining chips to pass what will end up being less than 3.5 trillion. And I think immigration is one of the things that could be used for negotiation purposes, honestly.
Now, you can imagine Republicans are going to use this to beat the White House up. Niall, thanks so much. Great conversation. We'll continue to read your reporting in the Hill.
Thanks, Leland.
All right. Back to this monster crisis that's unfolding in Del Rio, Texas. That's out on the western part of the Texas-Mexico border. There's more than 12,000 migrants, mostly Haitians, living under a bridge as they wait to claim asylum. That's up from 8,000 last night. The numbers just keep growing quite literally by the hour. Conditions under the bridge are rough. For example, all 12,000 people are sharing just 20 portable toilets. This is drone video, although it's unclear how long we'll get this aerial perspective, as the FAA has declared a no-fly zone. Joining us now, John Anfinson, local president of the Border Patrol Union, Del Rio, whose agents are currently overwhelmed, I think would probably be a fair statement. Would it not be, John?
That's an understatement. I don't even know what to describe it at this point.
As I understand it, you've been a Border Patrol agent for 14 and a half years. You ever seen anything like this?
No, and you bring people down here who've been in for 20 or 25 years, and they're speechless because they've also never seen anything like this.
Describe, and this is what I'm most interested in, is we're looking at pictures of this group of people there. We understand it's 12,000 Haitians, at least that's the reporting. Do we have any idea who these people really are?
Not yet, and I came from the bridge about an hour and a half ago, and it's 13,700 or so. So it continues to increase throughout the day.
When you say continuing to increase, is that just because there's just this flow of people walking literally across the Rio Grande River?
That's exactly it. They're just walking across, and we can only move so many at a time. So we might move 300, but then 2,000 will show up, and we just can't get ahead of it.
Wow. Okay, so now you say you move 300. Where do you move them to? What do you do with them?
So they're trying to move them to any Border Patrol station or sector that has room. Here in Del Rio sector, we're maxed out. We've been maxed out our capacity for months now. So they're trying to either make room or find other locations that have space. And frankly, everyone is kind of approaching capacity at this point. So they're just going to put them wherever we can to figure out what processing is going to take place, whether they're going to be released in the U.S. or maybe sent back to Haiti.
So fair enough to say a lot of them could be released into the U.S. You say Haiti, and I'm interested in this. We have a map to sort of show the relationship here of Haiti to Del Rio, which is an awfully long way. It's a couple of thousand miles across the Caribbean, the Caribbean Sea, and then into Mexico, and then up to the Del Rio area. Any idea how these people got there?
So the vast majority make their way from Haiti over to South or Central America. And a lot of them have been living down there for years, and they just decided now is the opportunity to cross. So we've been seeing sort of a steady flow of Haitians coming up through Mexico, coming from South and Central America. And for whatever reason, a huge number just decided to go all at once. And here we are.
Real quick, obviously, America was built by immigrants, and we all wouldn't be here without immigrants. All of our parents at one time or another were. But do we have any idea? And so you don't want to in any way vilify people who are trying to come for a better life. But do we have any idea if they're mixed in with these 12,000 people, or some really bad actors, or there's some terrorists from Afghanistan, or are there a bunch of cartel smugglers and gang members and everything else?
We have no idea at this point.
Okay.
So whenever we take them to custody, we roll their fingerprints. We try and figure out who they are. But at the moment, in this massive group of 13,000 something people, we just don't know who we're dealing with.
All right. Hey, John, I know you and your agents are working more than overtime, and our thoughts, our prayers, and our thanks are with all of them.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Come back and talk to us as this continues. We are learning today that the Biden administration's over-the-horizon plan, you remember that term from a couple of weeks ago, to deal with terrorism from Afghanistan has some significant issues. Namely, that in its first use, it failed. In fact, we now know rather than kill an ISIS-K suicide bomber, the Pentagon today admitted America used a drone to kill a man and at least 6 children driving the streets of Kabul. You might remember the attack came just hours before all U.S. forces withdrew from Afghanistan, and just after an attack, a suicide attack, killed 13 American service members. At the time, Pentagon leaders said the drone strike stopped an ISIS terrorist in his tracks before he could kill more Americans. Kelly Meyer was at the Pentagon briefing today as chagrined generals tried to explain this failure. Joins us now from D.C. Good evening, Kelly.
Hey there, Leland. Well, the commander of the U.S. forces in Afghanistan at the time apologized today and says they felt, quote, reasonably certain that this was a legitimate strike on an ISIS-K threat and that there would be no civilian casualties, but there was. The Pentagon showed this graphic of the car they hit driving around Kabul and explained they had over 60 reports of an imminent threat. One of the most reoccurring aspects of the intelligence was that ISIS-K would use a white Toyota Corolla as a key element in the next attack. That same kind of car the missile hit. As McKenzie admits, they were very clearly wrong.
And the evacuees at the airport, but it was a mistake. This strike was taken in the earnest belief that it would prevent an imminent threat to our forces and the evacuees at the airport, but it was a mistake. And I offer my sincere apology. As the combatant commander, I am fully responsible for this strike and this tragic outcome.
Getting it so wrong at such a critical time brings up a major question about the capability of the over-horizon operations in the future. U.S. troops are no longer on the ground in Afghanistan, and the CIA closed its operations there as well. But General McKenzie says they will still try to hit ISIS-K in the future.
I would reject a parallel between this operation and an over-the-horizon strike against an ISIS-K target, again, because we will have an opportunity to further develop the target in time, to look at pattern of life. That time was not available to us.
And the Pentagon still trying to figure out how they got this so wrong this time. Leland?
Meyer in Washington. Kelly, thank you. And with that, Congressman Michael Waltz commanded special forces in Afghanistan and worked at the highest levels of the White House planning counterterrorism strategy. Joins us now from his home state of Florida. Congressman, good evening. All right, General McKenzie, commander of Central Command, effectively saying no problem, we'll be able to hit ISIS-K next time, don't worry. Do you worry?
I do worry. And as you mentioned, having been a Green Beret on the ground with multiple combat tours, having called in personally drone strikes, the key thing there is you have to have multiple forms of intelligence that corroborate and verify what that drone operator is seeing through those cameras, often high above the battlefield. For example, in a crowded city, you have sources on the ground that perhaps know what the target looks like, can drive by and verify, can verify the type of vehicle, can look at their face, and put the pieces together in a much more fulsome way on top of other types of intelligence like signals intelligence, imagery, sensors, and other things. But what we'll have now in Afghanistan are none of those things. They're gone. We don't have an embassy. We don't have our intelligence operatives on the ground to run sources. We don't have troops to man sensor stations. So really all we're going to have are long-range drones. And to say that that is just as capable is just not true. It's going to be far more difficult, and I fear is going to lead to a situation where we don't see the threat building. And Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the Haqqani network have made it very clear that they still intend to attack the West if given the chance, and or that we also make mistakes. So this over-the-horizon capability is a talking point. Technically we can do it, but it is much less accurate and much more difficult.
Yeah, evidence how difficult it is and how you make mistakes with what the Pentagon just admitted to. put Afghanistan to the side for one moment. This caught our eye, something you and I have talked about a lot. Secretary of State Blinken evidently deleted a tweet. He originally put out a tweet, which I think you probably would have agreed with and been happy with, saying we stand with the people of Hong Kong. He then deleted it and put up something that was, shall we say, much more palatable to Beijing. Thoughts?
Well, it reminds me of the NBA coach in Houston, the general manager, I'm sorry, that a tweet that I think every American would agree with that said, I stand for freedom in Hong Kong. Remember, these people were reading copies of the Declaration of Independence and waving American flags in defiance of the authoritarian Chinese Communist Party. And the Chinese Party threatened the NBA to the point where they threatened to fire the coach if he didn't delete it. Eventually, he deleted it. That is a microcosm of the example of what China is doing to businesses, to Hollywood, to sports agencies, to major multinational corporations, Olympic sponsors. They play hardball, and either you see the world their way, which is crushing the Uyghurs, crushing Hong Kong, and taking over the South China Sea, or they threaten to cut you off. Yeah. And I would really like to get to the bottom of what happened there with the Secretary of State. We have to stop kowtowing to the Chinese Communist Party and treat them like the authoritarian threat that they are.
You make a good point about trying to figure out what happened. We're going to put the graphic back up. This was reporting from the South China Post that did some great reporting on this issue. South China Morning Post, a spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry's Hong Kong office criticized irresponsible comments from certain U.S. politicians. So at least the way you're sounding like you're saying it is that they got pushback from the Chinese and the American Secretary of State backed down.
Yeah, but this is, let's take that even a step further and a step out of it. We have seen this administration do nothing to stand with those fighting for basic human rights and freedoms. Whether that was in Cuba, they did nothing. Whether that's in the Panjshir right now in Afghanistan, those who are still trying to resist the Taliban and all of those abuses, the Uyghurs in Western China that are being persecuted, or for Hong Kong. This is a theme, and it's shameful.
Well, and probably not all that surprising. You and I used to talk when the Biden administration didn't stand up for the Green Revolution in Iran back in 2009. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. All the best. Well, speaking to the president, the border, the pandemic, the economy, Afghanistan, will the bad news keep the president from pushing through his domestic political agenda? Plus, hospitals packed with unvaccinated COVID patients mean those without COVID are dying of treatable illnesses. Why one public health expert, though, says vaccine mandates are not the answer. And we're monitoring breaking news right now. Police have entered the house of the boyfriend of a missing woman in Florida. Gabby Petito has been gone for nearly a month. Her boyfriend was the last one seen with her. Live pictures right now. We're told the boyfriend is not in the house, only his parents. If police bring anything out, we'll break in. See you on the other side of the break. Welcome back. One of the great fears of the pandemic is starting to come true. People with routine medical problems who should be saved are dying because hospitals are full with COVID patients. And these headlines are coming to us from across the country, all in the last week, and all with the same message. Hospitals and their ICUs are running out of beds, and the shortage is starting to cost lives. Just the other day, an Alabama man died of a heart emergency after 43 hospitals turned him away. The hospitals had no room because of the surge in COVID patients. Despite all of this, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, friend of the show, of UCLA, just wrote in the Wall Street Journal, vaccine mandates cannot stop the COVID spread. Dr. Ladapo joins us now. Good to see you, sir. We appreciate it. So as I read your piece, the folks in all these overrun hospitals you don't think would be helped by a vaccine mandate?
Well, you know, it's a good question, Leland. And yes, the vaccine mandates are effective at increasing rates of vaccination. But the issue of hospitals being overrun, which is something that, you know, we all want to avoid, we want to prevent, and unfortunately some hospitals are in that situation right now, is more complicated. So vaccines are a component, and even in these states, you know, some of these states do have rates of vaccination that are close to the average in the country. So it's not the only solution. So one of the things that I mentioned and is true and hopefully will become more well known is that we really need to be treating people earlier. I mean, it's just a critical piece. We have medications that we know are effective at preventing people from being hospitalized, and there's new data for one medication, for example, called fluvoxamine, that really we should be using right now. But we're waiting instead for the most recent trial to be published.
I guess what I'm hearing from you is that vaccine mandates increase vaccinations, but even if people are going to not get vaccinated because they just won't, we've got to deal with the ways to treat them. One issue is the idea of antibodies that are pre-manufactured. The White House was just pushed on whether or not they were sort of rationing these kinds of treatments. Take a listen.
Why is the Biden administration cutting these supplies?
That's not accurate. Our role as the government overseeing the entire country is to be equitable in how we distribute. We're not going to give a greater percentage to Florida over Oklahoma.
Are these being rationed in your experience?
You know, that's a really interesting question. So I'm not really sure what's happening there. I've been hearing some of this conversation in terms of what the administration's been asking some states to do and in terms of their response. So I'm not sure. One thing that is true, though, is that the monoclonal antibodies are vastly underused. I mean, a very small proportion of patients who would likely benefit from them receive them.
Yeah, there's lines.
That's an enormous
We've been reporting
problem.
down in Florida. There's lines that go for hours and hours of people trying to get the treatments themselves. The FDA smacked down President Biden's booster shots for all and said, nope, it's not going to be for everybody who got the vaccine, just people who are 65 and over. You know, so many of us have heard this. We're supposed to trust science, but who do you trust? Do we trust you? Do we trust Dr. Fauci? Do we trust the FDA? Do we trust the president? How do you figure out who to trust?
I know it is really challenging. I mean, I think what I would encourage people to do is to, be open to the possibility that sometimes the science and people's sort of personal agendas are overlapping. And, I think that's something that we've seen for a lot of this pandemic, some of the policies that have been pushed that really make almost no sense, whether it's forcing people to wear masks outside or some of the things we're doing to kids in terms of quarantining, and even the masking of the kids in school, for which there's actually very little high quality evidence. The highest quality evidence actually says it has no benefit. So I think, what I would encourage people to do is to try and decipher which messengers are providing us with the science and letting us know how they feel about that science, and which messengers are sort of mixing the two.
Yeah, well, Doc, you have been a very sound and sanguine voice through all of this, and we appreciate you being on with us. Thank you. Another day, another thing Facebook is doing wrong, why the social media site is starting to look like the dark web. First, President Biden's approval numbers, well, they're in free fall. Is it because of failure or bad policies? Back now to our top story, the chaos that is raging right now on our southern border. More than 12,000 migrants are waiting for processing under a bridge in Del Rio, Texas. They crossed into the country illegally, walking across the Rio Grande. This comes as Border Patrol encountered some 200,000 migrants along the southern border in August alone. That's 4 times as many as last year. And the White House is facing intense criticism over the border crisis. New poll found that just 38% of Americans approve of the president's handling on immigration. Meanwhile, the president's own FDA, as we just talked about, rebuked him, saying you don't need COVID booster shots unless you are over 65 or at high risk. An FDA advisory panel today rejected a plan to distribute booster shots to the general public, but endorsed Pfizer's 3rd dose booster shots for the elderly and vulnerable populations. The CDC panel is set to delve further into the issue next week. If you're confused, so are we. So is the American public. When it comes to Biden's handling of the COVID response, a Quinnipiac poll finds his approval falling to 48% compared to 53% last month. 49% now disapprove of how the president's handling the coronavirus. And as many Americans are facing higher prices on food, gasoline, and other items, President Biden is stepping up calls to raise corporate taxes and high-income earners, while also pushing to get support for Democrats' stalled $3.5 trillion spending bill. When it comes to Biden's handling of the economy, a Quinnipiac poll shows him now with 52% disapproval this month. Compared to last month, he was at 48% disapprove. The poll also found that while 69% of Americans agree with President Biden's decision to end the war in Afghanistan, just 31% approve of how he handled the withdrawal. As we mentioned earlier, the U.S. military has admitted it accidentally killed 10 civilians, including at least 6 children, in a Kabul drone strike that was supposed to be targeting an ISIS-K bomber. Americans appear to be losing faith in Biden's handling of foreign policy, as the poll finds 59% disapprove to 34% approve. Times like this require perhaps us to step back for perspective and reflection. Joining us now, George Will, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for The Washington Post and author of American Happiness and Discontents. Full disclosure, I told my dad this morning, Mr. Will, you are one of my intellectual heroes, so this will not be one of our hard-hitting interviews on the show. Thanks for being with us. Reasonable people can agree that things are not going very well for President Biden. Are these failed policies or failures or bad policies well executed?
In one case, leaving Afghanistan is understandable. I don't think we were wise to leave Afghanistan entirely, because leaving a few air assets and intelligence would have enabled us to, as they say, over the horizon, fight terrorism without the kind of hideous mistake that was made where those children were killed. But basically, it's a question of bad policies badly administered. You just gave this poll that only 31% approve of the leaving of Afghanistan the way it was done. Who are those 31%? What did they like about this?
Oh, fair enough. What about when we go to the economy and immigration? Now you're in the low 40s on that. Again, bad policies well implemented, or failures of implementing the policies that the administration says they want to implement?
I don't know what their policy is. The fact is, everyone, left, right, and center, liberal immigrationists, conservative immigration policy, everyone agrees that control of borders is an essential attribute of national sovereignty, and we have lost control of the southern border. It should not be beyond the capacity of this country to exercise control down there. And the more these pictures emerge, and they actually continue and reinforce the theme of the exit from Kabul airport, there's a general sense of the fraying of policies by this administration, of an inability to work their will.
Or enforce their will, I guess. You write in the Washington Post this morning about your new book, The Pursuit of Happiness is Happiness. It's getting harder to pursue happiness. The book itself is American Happiness and Discontents. I guess the question would be, is it getting harder to pursue happiness for all of us Americans?
For normal people, pursuing happiness is the American dream. It's the American way. We're the only country founded on a good idea, which is the pursuit of happiness as individuals define it. The problem is that more and more Americans in our dyspeptic mood these days define their happiness as someone else's unhappiness. These two tribes angry with each other and happy only to the extent that they can make the other side unhappy. This is the swallowing of daily normal life by politics. The fact is, most Americans are not obsessed by politics. Most Americans think of politics as of marginal importance as they go on with their lives, fixing the screen door, cleaning the gutters, raising children, washing the car. There are 331 million people in this country, and at any given moment, about 325 million of them are not thinking about politics.
Or watching cable news.
I was not going to say that because I've been trying to be polite. But the fact is that politics is of marginal importance to most people, and that is a sign of national health.
All right, fair enough. You have this interesting historical perspective going back in the book. Are we to believe that we have never been this divided? We have never been these two warring tribes before? Or has the government pushed us to a place that we can't come back from?
Oh, we can come back. Go back and look at the 1790s when the parties suddenly emerged. The founding fathers neither anticipated nor desired parties. They emerged, and there was a most violent rhetoric in the 1790s as we began to figure out how to have loyal and civil opposition. Go back to the 1850s. No one recently has come over from the House of Representatives and gone onto the floor as Preston Brooks of South Carolina did and beaten senseless, knocked him out of the Senate for 2 years, Senator Sumner of Massachusetts. We've not had anything like the Palmer raids after World War I, where civil liberties were just trashed by a kind of red hysteria. Things are bad now, but we've had bad times before. What is different now, Leland, is the fact that with social media, we give a kind of velocity to old-fashioned stupidity. And it makes it seem as though stupidity is on the march everywhere. Well, it's not. It's just that social media make it seem that way.
Yeah, the loudest, stupidest voice is the one that seems to at least get the most airtime these days. We try to do something a little different here. I got 20 seconds left. I'll put you on the spot. Sadly, your Cubs will not win the World Series. Who will?
You think? I'm sort of sympathetic to the Brewers, the smallest market team in baseball. They're the Henny Youngman of baseball. They get no respect. They just keep winning.
All right. Hopefully we'll have you back before the World Series to talk baseball and more. Thank you, sir.
Love it. Thank you very much.
Pleasure was all ours. All right. So how do Democrats view all of this, particularly with the midterms coming up, at least the start of the midterm season? From the left side of the aisle, we had to bring in two guys to counter George Will. Chris Hahn, host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast, Jason Nichols, senior lecturer at the University of Maryland. All right, we'll go back through those polls, starting with the economy in terms of exactly who approves of President Biden's handling. Actually, we'll start with Afghanistan. Economy here, we'll go to Afghanistan. Only 31% approve of how President Biden got out of Afghanistan. Professor Nichols, who are those 31%?
Well, I think those are the people who look at the fact that we were able to take 120,000 people out of Afghanistan. I'm not one of those 31%. I think it was poorly handled. There's no evidence that the previous administration would have done any better. And I think we did need to get out of Afghanistan. I'm going to go against the legend George Will there. I think it was something that the American people wanted.
Certainly.
People wanted to get out of Afghanistan. They wanted the Afghans to handle their own affairs, whether that is under whichever leadership is there. It's not necessarily our fight or our business, especially if they can't attack the American people. And I think that's what people were most concerned about. That's why we went to Afghanistan. And in that regard, it doesn't seem like those entities that were there before have the ability to actually attack us here on the American homeland anymore. So in that regard, we didn't need to be there. And I think that 31% wanted to be out. And
sort of don't care how they get out. Although if there is an attack on the homeland, I think we all agree that that all changes. Chris, I want to get to you because you've been quite vocal on the issue of the coronavirus and COVID. The president's numbers on this handling keeps slipping. Go back to the question I asked Dr. Ladapo. Progressives, and especially the president, has said keep saying trusting the science. Today he got slapped down by the FDA. Who do we trust? Do we trust the president, Dr. Fauci, the FDA? Who do we listen to?
I think we got to listen to the science. I think the president's numbers are slipping on COVID because a lot of progressives don't think he's doing enough to get the unvaccinated vaccinated. I think we need to start requiring vaccinations for people to get on an airplane. I think we got to start requiring vaccinations for people to be in most public spaces. I don't think the president has the authority to do all of that, but he does have the authority to do it on airplanes, and he can use the power of the purse to encourage states to do it in other cases. And I think progressives want to see him do that. And also, you see these variants surging. You see it in the news. Deaths are increasing. You see states like Idaho and others starting to ration health care. It's scaring a lot of progressives and left-leaning centrists, and that's why his numbers there have fallen.
That's interesting. I didn't think about not doing enough. Jason, I did not hear the answer to my question from Chris, so I'll ask you. Does it hurt the president's credibility when he says booster shots for everybody by September 20th, and then the FDA 3 days ahead of time goes, I don't think so?
No, I really don't think so. I really don't think that it hurts the president's credibility. I think
oh, come on, really?
What it basically says is that we're ready with the resources and we'll try to make it happen. But if the scientists say that we don't need it unless you're over 65.
He said people need boosters by September 20th. That was their big push. And then the FDA came out and said, never mind.
Yeah, and I think people will breathe a sigh of relief. And I think the president accepts that. I really don't think they're going to hold him responsible for people in the scientific community saying, wait, hold on, we don't necessarily need that. And I think that's a good thing. I think the president should be celebrating that, because the more it seems like this is being dictated from the White House, I think it's worse for the president in terms of his political capital. Not saying that he's wrong. I'm just saying that in terms of his political capital, it shouldn't necessarily come directly from the White House.
Political capital is something in scarce supply for the president right now. And Chris, you know better than anybody how valuable that capital would be up on Capitol Hill to try and push through the $3.5 trillion spending package with approval numbers like this, especially on the economy, 42-52 underwater. That doesn't say much for trying to get Joe Manchin in line, does it?
Look, Democrats have to hang together or they will hang separately on that bill. They got to stop talking about what it costs and start talking about what's in it. The president's approval numbers aren't that bad. In fact, they're 10 points higher than Trump's were at this point. He was still able to get his tax cut through with no Democratic votes. So I think that Democrats understand they've got to get something done. They're going to get this done. Don't let what you're hearing from Joe Manchin deter you. He's going to vote for something. It might not be $3.5 trillion. It might be $3.4 trillion. He's going to vote for it.
We've heard that. Jason, I'll give you the last word real quickly. I've only got about 20 seconds left. Of all of these situations that we outlined at the top of the segment, which one scares you the most that could truly derail the Biden presidency?
Well, I think, Afghanistan is something, particularly with the death of those children by the drone attack. No one likes to see children die. I think that that's going to be something that hurts him. But we've got a long way in this presidency, and a long way actually before midterms. So I think he's going to be in better shape as time goes on.
Yeah, and nobody's going to be talking about Afghanistan when Texas and Mississippi are trying to ban abortion. So get ready for a ruckus midterm.
Yeah, Well, gives us something to talk about. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Well, you can do Facebook for a lot of things. Evidently now available on Facebook, hiring hitmen, drug dealers, and human smugglers, all available on the site. So will this finally allow the Justice Department to go after the social media giant? All week, we've been telling you about stunning and frankly scary news about Facebook's bad acts, thanks to internal documents that were obtained by the Wall Street Journal. For tonight's installment, the social media giant chose to ignore warnings from employees that human traffickers use Facebook to lure women, along with other criminal enterprises like organ sales and pornography. From those Facebook memos, Facebook knew drug cartels use their platform to recruit, train, and pay hitmen, something that evidently the Border Patrol of the United States also knew.
In recent months, actually, we've seen an increase in smuggling organizations utilizing social media platforms to try and recruit teenagers.
Wall Street Journal has been barraging Facebook with reports that the social media giant knew the harm it was doing to kids and taking advantage of the addictive nature of Instagram and other things. You can see some of the headlines there. Wall Street Journal's reporting continues. Joining us now, Kevin Carroll, partner at Wiggin and Dana law firm. Kevin, good to see you as always. Thank you. All right, so is this the final straw for Facebook?
Leland, thanks for having me on. Facebook and the other social media companies are statutorily immune from civil liability for certain things because they're not responsible for the content they provide. But you've got people on the left angry at them about being unwittingly involved in election interference in 2016. And you've got people on the right angry at them about content suppression in the 2020 election. So they're running out of friends pretty quickly.
This is what is it? It's called the 230 section that gives all these social media platforms goes back to the 1990s. Would there?
That's exactly right.
Okay, so is that, would Congress have to repeal that in order to go after Facebook civilly?
That's right. I mean, if you or I were libeled in the New York Times, we could sue the New York Times, and the standard would be high, but we could win. If someone libels us on Facebook, we can't really sue Facebook for it.
Yeah.
And they may eventually lose that liability if they keep having these stories come out.
That's the protection. Joe Concha from The Hill had this to say earlier about these reports. Take a listen.
Mark Zuckerberg should be summoned to Capitol Hill next week, not next month, next week, to answer for this, because he should explain how he's allowing deadly drug cartels, for example, on its platform while banning the 45th president, who the company deems as a bigger threat than the aforementioned. Just incredible.
It's not often that Joe goes on television and doesn't find something incredible or outrageous, but putting that aside, Mark Zuckerberg gets up to Capitol Hill and goes, oh, gee, shucks, Senator, we'll do better next time. What I'm hearing is, aside from repealing that 230 law, there's not much you can do, right?
Yeah, and I'll say this in defense of Facebook. They're not as bad as some of the other social media companies when it comes to cooperating with law enforcement. Twitter, for example, is terrible about cooperating with U.S. law enforcement. Meanwhile,
real quick, I only got 30 seconds. You talked civilly, that's what we talked about for the segment. If you're allowing hitman to be hired and human smuggling on your platform, any chance of criminal charges, or is that a bridge too far?
You could certainly try to file some sort of aiding and abetting charge, but I think it would be very, very hard to prove that they had the state of mind that they were knowingly and willingly associating with it. Although the Wall Street Journal report is damning in that they did have notice internally that this was going on.
Yeah, I was going to say the internal memos certainly make you think about that. Kevin, always a great perspective. Good to see you.
Thanks, Leland.
All right. When we come back, we thank our dogs, including this one, for what they teach us about life. Last night, we wanted to highlight a piece a friend of mine, Karl Rove, wrote, but unfortunately, the gremlins in the graphic system were running wild, so we wanted to try it again. Karl wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal about his dog, Little Bit. Little Bit died about 2 weeks ago. She was 3 years old, like so many of our pets at home. Karl says Little Bit helped him and his family through the COVID lockdowns. He wrote, God grants us pets to encourage us to give and receive unconditional love, to see loyalty personified, and to remind us that we must balance joy and delight with loss and grief in the transitory life. That line got our thinking about all the pets in our lives. Turns out we forgot one. Sage is our acting EP's pup and our vice president, Sherry Gretsch's dog. She's 3 years old. She's simply adorable. So here's an updated shout out to all of the pets on the On Balance team: Moose, Brody, Sugar, Autumn, Lucy, Sage, and Donut. Prime starts now.